Okay, so here is animates a screen once you open it up. So once you open it up here, you're going to have all these create new choices, typical of all your Adobe applications that you'll see. What's really critical to do right off the bat for this, to save yourself redoing everything at the end, is hitting this ActionScript 3.0 version here. Just hit that to start off with, and then just do a quick file save as. I'm just going to save this to my desktop here. So this is really what's called the stage here. You can resize this by this properties palette here on the right. Right here is your width and height. You can do a couple different things with it. You can kind of click and drag. It's kind of similar to how you adjust settings in Adobe Premiere or Adobe After Effects. Or you can just kind of double click this square here, and what I did for my canvas is I made it 500 pixels by 500 pixels. There are some drawing basics in Flash. You know, you have your rectangle, you have your circle, you have a polygon tool over here on the right side. When I select my circle, my shape tool, it's going to default to give me, this is the symbol for stroke here, here's the symbol for the fill color. I can adjust my stroke up or down here using the slider, or of course I can click in here and edit the numbers. I can change the style, it looks like here, all these different options. You can make the cap rounded square, so on and so forth. So a lot of the tools that Illustrator has for you. Essentially, I can just click this fill, swatch next to the fill bucket, and it's going to open up all these different swatch options that I can have here. So I'm going to pick something really bright and obnoxious like this this color here. I'm going to keep my stroke at black so we can really see it well. And I'm going to make it really thick. About 10, well, I'll make it like 5 points so you can kind of see it, see how that looks. So what I'm going to do is just draw this shape. I'm going to click and drag. Yeah, I can constrain the circle's proportions, or I can let it kind of mold like an ellipse by hitting Shift. So Shift is going to constrain. Letting go of Shift is going to let my ellipse kind of free flow there. So I'm going to constrain and stretch it out. And so one of the unique things about Flash, it's really strange how these tools work, is that these shapes work, is actually, they're almost like clay if you think about it. You can see how the centerpiece of the shape is like this checkered pattern. I can actually delete that entire color from there. I can click and drag a shape over this edge here, and now you can see that part of it is that checkered pattern. So I can kind of delete pieces like that too. I can even double click this stroke and just delete this stroke like it's as if it's like a piece of clay or something. So those are just some of the interesting things that just the different ways that these drawing tools kind of work. So I'm just going to delete this stroke right here. I can really just double click this fill color too, and I can even, let's say I wanted to change it. While it has that checker pattern, it's really just, it means the same thing as being selected. One of the other unique things about it is that I can select, or I can create a different shape, and I'll just do a different color to show you, kind of demonstrate how this is going to work. Before I draw the shape, I got to pick the color, so here we go. Okay, so I have these two shapes. Now, they're both on the same layer here. Here's my layers. So I can double click this, and I'm going to just kind of move this around, and I'm going to violate the shape, and I'm going to put it over it. I'm just going to unclick it. So now I have these two layers just on top of each other. So now when I double click this top layer here and then move it, it actually just chopped out the bottom piece, the bottom shape. So this is just a really strange behavior for shapes in a program like this, I think. I mean, to me anyways. So this is just something to keep in mind be careful about how you're moving your your freeform shapes around on the palette or the stage, because it might be chopping things out inadvertently. So there's you can add multiple layers here in the timeline, so I'll just move things up. You can add multiple layers. You'll be able to see in my file too that I have multiple layers. If I have a bunch of layers here, all I have is these little color icons in this column here to tell me what layer's what. I'm just going to create a new folder, and then I can rename it, it's already named folder 1, and I can just click and drag these layers into the folder to help keep myself organized, so I don't have 10 layers on the palette. I'm just going to have these two. Circle on a layer. I'm going to call it circle. Let's run through the basic animation step. So right here we have circle on frame 1. I know my animation is going to start this way. Where do I want it to end up? What do I want it to look like after, let's say, 24 seconds, after 1 second, which equals 24 frames in this case? I'm going to hit frame 24. I'm going to control click. I'm going to hit insert keyframe. This is going to make, again, an exact duplicate of the first frame. So now this keyframe says I'm going to make a change here. So here's where my change is going to happen. So instead of making multiple changes across 5 to 10 keyframes, I'm going to go straight to 30 and then say this is where these changes are going to end up. So I'm just going to move that up here. I'm going to drag the playhead and show that it goes from frame 1 to 24. My shape is positioned at this location. Frame 25, it jumps. So this is like a 25-page flip book, except the first page and the middle 24 or 23 pages are completely blank, and then page 25 also shows up. So the shortcut way of doing it is just doing a control click on the space between the two keyframes and then clicking on, I think it's, Classic Tween. So what this is showing you here is Classic Tween. So this is really filling in the gaps for you. You establish the beginning and the end, and the gaps are flashes filling out the gaps for you from the animation. So what I'm going to do for the shape tween is the shape tween is really unpredictable. You don't know what it's going to do before you apply the tween. So I can say that the first frame of my shape tween is going to start as a circle, and then I'm going to hit frame 40, and I'm going to control click, and I'm going to insert another keyframe. Again, my circle's there. Maybe I just delete the circle altogether. Now I'm dealing with a blank keyframe. Now I'm going to click on a square. I'm going to click to change the color a bit. So now I'm saying I want to start here with this green circle, but now I want to end up here with this big giant purple rectangle. So I can do this because these are actually shapes. You can't really shape tween like a picture of a pair of shoes, for instance. You can only shape tween these kind of clay objects, is what I kind of compare them to. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to again click the middle of the where the keyframe, the two keyframes that I want to change. I'm control clicking that, and then I'm going to hit create shape tween. So again, flashes for every keyframe, kind of predicting what I'm thinking I want it to do, and it's just filling in the gaps for me. It's saying, here's your start, here's your end, and then I'm going to fill in what's in the middle, which is apparently a color change and a kind of a rotation, unintended consequence, really, and then kind of sharpening of the corners there. I can just add a couple layers, and then I should just be able to click this entire tween and just option click drag and release, option click drag release. I can maybe nudge this. something like that. I can just layer things, and maybe it creates something interesting. A lot of experimentation with designs here. So I see a tween here, and I've built up an animation or some kind of interactive piece, and it's gotten really complicated. You can control click the space the tweens and actually just remove them, and then start from a more reasonable point in time. So what I'm going to do here for the motion path tween is add a shape to layer 1. So I'm going to add this circle shape. Then I'm going to go select frame 30, control click, and insert keyframe. Next, what I'm going to do is take layer 1, I'm renaming it circle. Then I'm actually going to control click it, and I'm going to hit add classic motion guide. On frame 1 for the classic motion guide layer, I'm going to select it, click my pen tool, and draw the path in which I want my shape to travel. Then I'm going to go up here, hit my selection tool. Then I'm going to click back into frame 1 of my timeline in order to select my circle, and I'm going to move around and just make sure that it snaps to the beginning point of the motion path. Then I'm going to hit the shape on frame 30, move that over to the last point in the motion path line. Finally, I'm going to click the space between the two keyframes, and I'm going to control click that and create classic tween. And that will make my shape follow the motion path as seen here. I can hide my motion path by simply clicking on this visibility option here to turn my visibility off so my shape looks like it's bouncing the way I want it to in space and not actually following a path. And finally, I can apply easing in and easing out by simply clicking on the tween between the two main keyframes that I'm animating and clicking this ease slider. Bringing it down to -100 will ease it in. So I'm going to start from frame 1 and press enter to play the movie at full speed. You can see that how it slowly moves across the path in the beginning of the animation and then quickly moves through the animation at the end, called easing in. And setting ease out will bring us to setting this setting to 100 positive. And then you can see here that it's almost as if the ball is slowing down towards the end of the animation.